Bonjour, ça va bien? I hope you're well today bienvenue à la classe 2. So welcome to the second class of au Parc Safari, at the Safari Park. Pour commencer, écrivez la date et le titre et soulignez, s'il vous plaît. So write down the date and the title and underline them. Okay, so let's just look at our objectives for this week. So far we've looked at wild animals, and we've also had a look in the last lesson at how to form the perfect tense of regular verbs. And we also had a look at avoir. We recapped how we conjugate the verb avoir. Okay, so today we're going to be practicing that again in a little bit more detail, and we're also going to be having a look at negatives. Okay, so pour commencer, s'il vous plaît, what animals can you remember? So write them down in French, as many as you can. Okay, merci beaucoup. You've got some extra challenges that you can do. Pause the video while you're doing that task. Merci. Alors, on va continuer. Écrivez le vocabulaire pour aujourd'hui. So let's write down the vocabulary for today. So we've got three sets of vocabulary for today. We've got opinions, we've got time phrases, and we've got connectives. So all of these three things are really useful for writing our sentences in French. Let's look at our opinions first of all. Écoutez et répétez, s'il vous plaît. C'était super. It was great. C'était fantastique. It was fantastic. C'était nul. It was rubbish. C'est mon animal préféré. It is my favorite animal. Okay. Now, did you notice that c'était super, c'était fantastique, et c'était nul, all of those three are in what tense? The imperfect tense. Okay. Those three are in the imperfect tense, but c'est mon animal préféré is in the present tense. Well done. Well done. Okay. So let's look at our time phrases. Tout d'abord is first of all, ensuite is then, puis is then. So we have two ways to say that in French. Après ça is after that. Okay, and our connectives, we know these already. We're very familiar with these. Et, mais, avec. Okay, and, but, and with. Écrivez-tu le vocabulaire, s'il vous plaît, dans ton cahier? So write down all of the vocab nice and neatly and clearly in French and in English in your book or on your paper. Okay, merci beaucoup. Et aussi, il y a deux challenges aujourd'hui. So there's two extra little challenges. See if you can translate any of those sentences. Stop the recording while you're doing this task. Okay, I'm just going to put up the answers to the challenges in case you took those on. So the first one, I saw lions at the safari and it was great. J'ai vu des lions au safari, c'était super. Give yourself 2 points if you did that challenge. The next one, first of all, I visited a safari in Kenya and saw tigers. They were fierce. Tout d'abord, j'ai visité un safari au Kenya et j'ai vu des tigres. Ils étaient féroces. Okay, how did you get on with that one? Give yourself another 2 points. Did you remember the S on the plural? Did you remember the S here for the plural? And did you remember that it was they for the plurals there? Okay, let's continue now. So, quick recap on our perfect tense. What do you remember about the perfect tense? Do you remember the formula? Do you remember the 3 steps? And do you remember the past participle endings for the AR, IR, and ER verbs? Okay, you can just do it verbally. You don't need to write anything down. Just think about it for a second. Okay, let's do our little recap. So the first question was, how do we form the perfect tense? Did you get the formula? Subject plus avoir or être in the present tense plus your past participle. Let's look at our examples again. J'ai visité un safari l'année dernière. So I visited a safari last year. Je suis allé au Kenya la semaine dernière. So I went to Kenya last year. Remember, you don't need to write anything down here. This is just our recap. So remember, the je is the subject, the person doing the action. The est is the present tense of avoir. Suis is the present tense of être. Visiter is your past participle for your ER verb, visiter. And aller is your past participle for your present, your verb aller, to go. Okay, on va continuer. So the 3 steps to forming the perfect tense, what were they? So the step 1 was to find the infinitive of the verb. For example, visiter. Okay, we're going to look at this ER verb. The second step was to take off or remove the verb family ending so that you're left with the stem. Okay, so we take off the ER, so we're left with the stem visite. And step 3 was to add the past participle ending. Okay, so we know that for the ER verbs, the ending is with an E accent. Okay, j'ai visité. For the IR verbs, it's I, and for the RE verbs, it's you. Okay, did you get that correct? If you did, that is fantastic. C'est fantastique. Now, oh, I've already answered the last one. So the past participle endings were ER verbs, E accent, IR verbs, I, and RE verbs, you. Okay, so the examples were j'ai mangé, I ate, j'ai fini, I finished, or j'ai vendu, I bought. Okay, you don't need to write anything down. This is just our little recap. Alors, on va continuer. So our grammar for today, which we do need to write down, from now on we're writing. So the grammar title is negative. So how do we form a negative? Maybe you know how to form a negative. You might remember because we've done this in lesson already. Okay, so we need our subject, plus we need ne before the verb and pas after the verb. Okay, so you need to write down that formula in your books, please. Let's look at some examples. Je n'aime pas les crocodiles, so I don't like crocodiles. So we have je, which is the subject, the person doing the action. Je ne n'aime pas. The ne goes before the verb. The verb is aimer, to like. Now, because the verb starts with a vowel, we need to take off the E. So that's why it becomes ne. Okay? Les crocodiles. So please pause the recording while you write down that example. Okay, so now, how do we form a negative in the perfect tense? We've looked at the present tense. Now we're going to look at the perfect tense. I want you to write this in your book as well. Okay, so our little formula here is our subject again. We have ne and we have pas, but this time the ne is going to go before the auxiliary verb. Okay, what is the auxiliary verb? So the auxiliary verb is the first verb in the sentence, which we know is avoir or is être. Okay, and then we have at the end, then we have our past participle. So let's look at some examples. So, je n'ai pas vu de crocodile. So I did not see any crocodiles. So je is our subject, ne pas is our negative, and we have it in front of the verb avoir. So a, we know, is the first person in avoir. And then we have our past participle at the end of our sentence. So vu is the past participle for the verb voir, to see. Okay, let's look at our next example. Je n'ai pas visité du safari. So I didn't visit a safari. So again, we have our ne pas before, the ne goes before our auxiliary, which is avoir, and the pas goes after avoir. And then we have our past participle, our verb visiter, with the past participle. Okay, so just write those examples down in your book, please, and write the lovely formula. Pause the recording while you're doing that task. Alors, on va pratiquer. So let's do some practice. There are 4 little sentences here, and I want you to write these sentences in the negative form, okay? Write them in the negative. There's some extra challenges there for you as well, but I want you to focus on writing these 4 sentences in the negative. Now, you can translate them as well. If it was me, I would translate them as I'm going along, okay? Pause the recording while you're doing this task. Okay, so let's look at the answers. So, j'ai vu des girafes, which would mean I saw giraffes. In the negative, that would be je n'ai pas vu de girafe. So I didn't see giraffes. Now, I'm going to draw your attention to this here. So when we use the positive, we have they in the plural, okay, which is what we would expect. But in French, when we use a negative, we don't add an S, we just leave it as de girafe, okay? So that's a little thing that might surprise us, but take note of that. Now, the next one, j'ai visité un safari, which is I visited a safari. In the negative, it's je n'ai pas visité du safari. So I did not visit a safari or the safari. So again, we have to use de there. Did you get your ne and pas after your, before and after the verb avoir? Okay, c'est très bien. J'ai vu des tigres féroces, which is I saw ferocious tigers. The negative would be je n'ai pas vu de tigres féroces. I did not see ferocious tigers. Okay. And the last one, j'ai visité le zoo de Londres avec ma famille. So I visited the London Zoo with my family would be je n'ai pas visité le zoo de Londres avec ma famille. So again, we have the ne before the avoir and pas afterwards. Okay. So how did you get on with that task? If you've anything to correct, please pause the video while you correct your work and correct please in red pen avec un stylo rouge. Merci beaucoup. Okay, maintenant nous avons notre activité d'écoute. So we have our listening activity now. So if you can just play the listening task, you should have that as an attachment on the lesson today. And it says, write down the animals that he saw. I can't remember his name, but write down whatever animals he saw and whatever animals he did not see. Okay, so there's 5 animals that he saw, 5 animals that he did not see. Now the challenge is, can you hear the opinions? Okay, so he gives some opinions about the animals. Can you write down as many opinions as you can as well? Okay, so pause this recording while you're doing that and listening to the listening task. Okay, so let's have a little look at the answers and see how you got on. So these are the 10 animals, and these, I just marked it out of 10 here, but these are the extra opinions. So how did you get on with any of those extra opinions? Did you get any of them? Did you hear any of them? If you did, c'est super, really well done if you got any extra opinions. So please give yourself some marks. If you got any opinions, give yourself some extra marks as well. C'est super. Alors, on va continuer. Now, our final task is, there are 5 sentences here, and I want you to say which sentences are in the perfect tense, okay? By just saying yes or no, okay? So let's have a look at whether you pause the recording while you're doing this. And the next task then is to say, write this sentence in the negative form. Okay, and then the final little thing is, can you write your own sentence in the negative? Okay, write your own sentence in the negative. So pause while you're reading the sentences and seeing which ones are in the perfect. Alors, on va continuer. So let's look at the answers. So, j'ai visité un zoo la semaine dernière. Oh, in fact, they all come up, right? So that makes life a lot easier. So yes, that's in the perfect tense. And the translation of that is, I visited a zoo last week. J'ai vu des lions effrayants. So I saw the lions. Yes, that's in the perfect. Je n'ai pas vu des singes. So I didn't see the monkeys. That's also in the perfect tense. Les singes étaient grincheux. C'était nul. The monkeys were grumpy. It was terrible. It was awful. So this one is not in the perfect tense. This is in the imperfect tense. So était is imperfect and c'était is also imperfect as well. And the last one, je n'ai pas vu de crocodile féroce. I did not see any ferocious crocodiles or fierce crocodiles. And yes, that is also in the perfect tense. Okay. So how many did you get correct out of 5? Now, the last little one was, so see if you got this right in the negative. So, je n'ai pas vu des crocodiles. Oh, actually, there's something wrong there. That should say du crocodile féroce. Okay, so there shouldn't be an S on there, everybody. I can't change it now, but there shouldn't be an S on there. Okay, remember, because in the negative in French, we don't add the S, we just add it in the positive. So please, I'm sorry that it's wrong, but will you just correct it in your books? Okay, and I look forward to reading your sentence that you wrote in the negative as well. Alors, merci beaucoup tout le monde. Well done today for getting to the lesson. I hope you enjoyed. And if you have any questions, I'm sure you can ask your teacher. And I look forward to reading your work from today, as I'm sure your teacher does as well. Okay, merci beaucoup. Au revoir. À bientôt.